we are back. We got episode 9 here. And in this episode, I want to talk about the importance of having a community. So, when you look at human beings, when you look at people, we're all communal people. We are very social creatures, and we need people around us. We need to socialize and have people to talk to, always have these interactions just to be able to function, be able to go through life, be able to, be able to do the things that we need to do to live and contribute to society. And it's important to have a good community around you for you to be able to flourish also as an individual. And as I've gotten older, now in my early 30s, starting to realize how important it really is to have a good community around you, how it's needed for us as human beings to have people around us, uh, whether it's to, have basic needs like, something that is, I guess, transactional. I need something and this person can provide it for me, or and vice versa. And also just to socialize, just to see how everybody's doing, just to spend time with people, build relationships. We need that in our lives. We need to build relationships. We need to socialize. We need to talk to people. We need each other for certain things. So that's where, community comes in, to provide those needs, those basic needs for us as social creatures. And obviously, if you want good in your life, you want positivity, you want to be productive, and you also want to help others as well as receive help. You want to be part of a community that's always has the mind to just build each other up. That's good. That's selfless. That's it's very loving and caring for one another. And when I was younger, I obviously you don't realize how important that is. You kind of take it for granted. You don't even realize like that's really needed until you're alone and you don't have it, right? Because growing up, or even right now, let's say you're a younger kid, right? The people that you're surrounded by are what? Your family, first and foremost, your inner circle, right? Your sphere of influence. You have your mom, your dad, siblings, right? Relatives, cousins, uncles, aunts, grandparents. You got that inner circle, and then you probably have your friends at school, your uh, at your place of education, and you got your friends there, your interaction with your peers, teachers, counselors, and then you go to your extracurricular activities. It could be your piano teacher, it could be sports, your teammates, and your coaches. And you also have religious institutions, your church, your mosque, synagogue, temple. You got your peers around you. You got older people, ministers, religious leaders. So there's there's those areas where you probably get most of your community as a kid, and really, when you get older, it doesn't really change. Now, this is from a first world perspective, right? Because maybe in more rural areas, you pretty much just have like your village. Maybe depending on how big the village is, or you could have like a small town, and usually in those settings, like hundreds of people, maybe reaches 1,000, but you kind of know everybody. You kind of know everybody around town, and that's your community right there. And you're just exposed to that pretty much on a daily basis, right? And as you grow up to be adult, it doesn't really change other than, from school, it turns into your workplace and your employees, your boss. They're the people that you interact with on a daily basis. Your family, you probably have a family of your own. You get kids, you're married, you got your spouse, you got your religious institutions, your church community, you got extracurricular activities, whatever hobby you pick up. It could be cycling, playing basketball, board games. I mean, all sorts of things, right? That you build a community off of. So why do I think it's important? Because we all want to interact with one another. We all have our needs, and a lot of the needs that we need to get require other people to help us, right? And as I mentioned before, there's a transactional aspect to it. There's also an aspect where you you want to be able to share things as well, like share information, uh, build relationships, see what's going on in the other person's life, right? And you want to care for them, and you want to, if there's ever a need, like they need help with, you uh I don't know, maybe they need help with like solving some issues that they're having at home, or maybe they just had a rough day, just want to talk about their day with you, talk about a certain situation, or maybe they have a question that that they have that maybe you could provide the answer to. So things like that. Or you could go around like gossiping too. I mean, there's that aspect to it too in a community, which is more on the negative side, which I would endorse, because I think it breaks up communities more so than building it. Obviously, you want a community where you could build upon one another, to help each other out, to love each other, to show respect, to be there for each other in times of need. And I just remember, maybe it was around post college, when I was a young adult in my 20s, my early 20s, when I was spending a lot of time on my own. Right? There's for me personally, I'm not the most social person out there. I'm pretty introverted. I keep things to myself, and I don't really say a lot of things. Even now, I'm still in that area, although I have become more social and really put myself out of the comfort zone to want to talk to people, have some small talk, and build relationships, meet new people. Those are things, as I gotten older, I've been more willing to do, because I do value people and relationships. I do like talking to people and getting to know uh, people I haven't met before, or with people that I built relationships with. I want to continue to build it so we could continue to get closer and help each other out, and bond together. And but early on, when I was in my 20s, I feel I think I eventually came to the realization that just going through life alone isn't the best way to go. I mean, you come to realize like you need people around you. If you also want to grow, how can you grow by yourself? I mean, you can in some ways, like you could extract a lot of information from the web these days, or you could read books and acquire a lot of knowledge, but where's the actual social interaction? You don't have that with the author. You don't have that with um, just listening to videos or reading stuff off the web or books. There's no dialogue there, right? It's just a one way information extraction from one person to the other. But there's no live interaction, there's no live dialogue, live feedback, and you need that. It's much needed, and you might be the smartest guy and have all the information, but what use is it if you're not going to share it with people, or if you're not going to use it in a way where you can contribute to society, right? And so I think even before being in my 20s, I kind of grew up thinking I could do everything on my own, that I don't need people around me. So I would minimize a lot of interactions that I have with people, and wasn't the most social guy out there. Although I had my friends, and it's not like I was antisocial, but I definitely had a preference of like rather not depending on people, rather not like asking people for help. I always thought I wanted to be, I could do things on my own. I could be independent, and I don't need other people to get through life. And I think it had a lot to do with my upbringing, just having parents that always worked long hours, and just also having an older sister that wasn't always around. She was an adult and doing her own thing and working and not around the house. So I was always home alone, and always doing my own thing, and always gravitating towards like basketball because that's what I enjoyed doing. And so there was always this mindset of like self-reliance. Like I was comfortable not being around people, and comfortable doing things on my own. But then, I still had like my community in those areas, like in my church, at school. That was still there. I still had my friends, I still had people around me, but I took it for granted. I didn't realize the value in that until, like when you think about like kind of difficult times, or you think about like things that you do well as well, like joyous occasions, big milestones. It's like you want to go through those events like with people, whether they're there to console you or to really help you in those time of needs, or to celebrate with you in those times where you've had a massive achievement or hit a huge goal or a milestone that's worth sharing. And so it's like really in those moments where it's all about the people that are around you, that you spend time with, and you start to appreciate like the relationships that you had. Because even when I look back, like my circle of friends or people that I interact with, a lot of those people, aren't in my life anymore. You look at some of these people, they were there for like a season, maybe for a couple years, but you move on, they move on, or they stay put in whatever they're doing, and life takes you in different directions. And I've come to realize like, oh, I know like a lot of people come and go. You'll always meet new people, and there'll be people that you've spent time with for a while, but you probably will never see them again. And that's just the reality. But I come to the realization that like I've just become more thankful and appreciative of those times that I spent with those people, especially people that were really good friends to me. That I think good relationships where both parties really benefited from the relationship and got a lot out of it. Obviously, there's a lot of relationships too that aren't perfect. Maybe we're a little bit more toxic, we're negative. But maybe when you look back and even at those relationships, in some sense, maybe you do miss them. Or maybe you grew from that and you realize, like, oh, that's not the type of relationship or type of people I want to be around with. And so you realize, like, the community that you surround yourself with, that community is what really influences you a lot, especially with your inner circle, right? And so it's also a big deal because like whoever you surround yourself with, it also shapes you into the person that you are. So like even as I gotten older, I've come to realize like I want to seek out also a community that maybe holds the same values as I do, or either that or has the same interest. You want to be around people that maybe have similarities to you or want to strive for the same things that you do, right? Maybe a common underlying purpose in life, and that's where you find it in maybe in like a religious setting, right? Or maybe you find it in some sort of club or uh, uh, whatever the case may be, right? You want to bond over a specific interest and just talk about that. And so you join like sports groups, martial arts gyms, or uh, yoga classes, cooking classes, painting classes, all sorts of stuff, right? You could bond on things of those interests, and maybe you could go on for days talking about just that specific subject or that field, right? And so you as an adult, at least for myself, I become more intentional on what type of communities, what type of people I want to surround myself with, right? And so for me, like what's important is like my church setting due to my faith. So making sure I'm part of a good church where I have a lot of good people around me that'll keep me accountable, that will uh that I could share life with, right? I could share, kind of things that are going on in my life and vice versa, and we could do things to help each other out, you know, um, at regardless of like what's going on in our lives, and that's how we really pour love and care for each other. Or even for me, like joining like a jiu-jitsu gym, like I joined it because I wanted to challenge myself, and I'm surrounding myself with people that want to have the same interests and want to challenge themselves and want to get better. So there's that aspect where I'm around those like-minded people where we want to push ourselves, we want to make sure like we're all getting better and helping each other sharpen techniques and understand concepts. And that's fun too. And we could talk about jiu-jitsu and uh, matches that we saw, or like pro events, like things like that. That really, piques our interest as well. And we really have like enjoyment of sharing like each other's passion. And so there's things like that, or playing basketball, or obviously having family too. You know, family's a big thing too, because family is like, you don't, when you're born into this world, you're not the one choosing your family. Like, it's not up to you. Like, you just placed into this family. You're born here, and you grow up to, your parents and your siblings and your relatives, and it's just the way it is. And you got to find a way to manage through all that, right? Through the ups and downs, and not every relationship is going to be perfect, or you might not grow up in the most loving environment, but how do you navigate through that? And usually the family should be the closest relationships that you have, the closest ties that you have, right? Because the parents and the siblings, you're spending so much time with each other at home, and you're, again, the same concept where you're interacting with each other, trying to build each other up. The parents are trying to raise the kid to make sure that they grow up to be a responsible adult, right? Teach them values, beliefs, life lessons, important principles, things like that. And so when you do have that proper guidance, as a child, you when you really take that in, you really understand the importance of it, and you understand the importance of that relationship that you had, the parental child relationship, and you grow together. You grow in that relationship. You create a big bond, and whenever things happen in life, the first people that are there are your family. And so that's a tribe and a community of its own, right? And that's probably the closest that it should be. Unfortunately, it's not always picture perfect, and there's a lot of broken families, broken relationships, even within the family, when it was probably more so designed for it to be the closest people that you're supposed to be with. You know, even for me, like, I don't have the most perfect relationship with my family, but uh, and it wasn't always I didn't always have a close relationship with all my family members, but even for me, it also I came to the realization that family is is so important for me. And I think the most pivotal moment where I realized that family was so important was when my grandma, when she was at on her last years of her life, she was dealing with Alzheimer's, and I could slowly see her, kind of losing it, kind of degrading a bit, which was very sobering. It's very humbling to see that when a loved one like my grandma was going through that time. And she was always someone that raised me too when my parents were away working long hours, especially during the summer when I wasn't at school. My parents would drop me off at my grandma's, and I'd spend like the whole day with her, right? And she fed me and took care of me, making sure I was okay, with a lot of love and care, right? And so when she was on her last years, I just remember just eventually she couldn't live on her own. I remember she fainted and was hospitalized, and came to the realization that she needed to be in a nursing home. She needed to be looked after. And even before then, I would always try to make an effort to see her, periodically, maybe once a month, and even after that, maybe once every couple weeks, just try to check up on her and just try to see her. But I just realized, like, when I was always at that nursing home, when I saw other elderly people who weren't really at their right state. Uh, just living day by day, and not always having like family there around. They're just around each other, but they're all not totally there. And for me, like I just try to spend as much time as I could with my grandma because I knew what kind of state she was at. And, it's not like all our family members were going there like every day. Um, and so I try to visit as much as I can just to keep her company, just to spend time with her, understanding that, her time was coming up. And I knew the reality of it. So in my mind, I just try to spend as much time as I could. And I thought about the times when we didn't visit, when she was on her own. Yeah, she had like people around her, but it was like, everybody else wasn't in their right mindset. So it's not like you had a healthy community of people around you. Everybody was on the last years of their life. That was the reality. So how could you really have like a community like that? But that's when it hit me because I remember times when I was alone and I wanted I wanted to have people around me. Like I didn't want to have to feel alone all the time. And I thought about my grandma. I thought, man, um, like she must feel alone too when she's just in her room doing her own thing. Um, maybe, and I'm sure she understood like she's not the same anymore, and she's just living day by day. But I remember every time I would see her, I would see like the joy in her face when she saw me. She was always so happy, and like I think she really appreciated like just me being there, just having company and just spending time with her. And I always thought like what if I'm ever in that position when I get older? It's like, man, it would suck to just be alone all the time, right? Man, I would, if I put myself in her shoes, like I would want to for people to come visit me and spend time with me. If I had grandchildren or children to come visit often and just spend time with me, at that stage of my life. So that really hit me. That was very sobering. That was very humbling. And eventually she did pass away. And this was about 2019, about 5 years ago, a little over 5 years ago. And when she passed away, I just I just remember thinking about family, like what family was all about. And it always reminded me of the times that I spent with her and me making the effort of trying to spend as much time as I could with her. And it was tough too, at those years too, because she wasn't at the right stage. She would forget a lot of things, and she couldn't hear as well. So we couldn't even communicate that well. So a lot of times we'd just sit there, and usually every time I visit, it'd be like the same conversations that we have, like even things that I already told her. But I knew what the state she was in, so we just always talk about the same thing, but just me being present there with her. I At the time I just hoped that like she really appreciated my company because that was really the purpose. And I appreciated hers too. And I know she took care of me when I was younger, and I just always felt like that was my way of looking out for her, was just spending time with her. So I bring that up because it was like this life changing perspective of how important family was. And even though I didn't have the most perfect relationship with my family, or we weren't the closest, I realized that is what was needed, was that family structure is so important. And I don't know if they had that perspective or they really saw the value in that, but I did, which is why, you know, me being with my parents, me being with, you know, spending as much time with like my sibling, like I became a lot more intentional in trying to be a better sibling, a better son, trying to honor my parents and try to be loving towards my family. And with that in mind, it extended out to my friendships, to my community, and being intentional with, the relationships that I already had, and uh, trying to be uh, as loving as possible, trying to help each other out, trying to help those around me. I try my best, and I'm not perfect by any means, but that perspective change in terms of valuing community, valuing relationships around me. And that was a huge turning point in my life. It changed everything when my grandma passed away, and her passing was like a blessing and a reminder for me of how important family, friends, those close relationships, brotherhood, sisterhoods, uh, community of like close relationships, community in your church, whatever. Um, it's so important, and always trying to build each other up, always trying to do good and show love to others, and being respectful. Uh, that's always what I carried in no matter what setting I am. Obviously, you invest more into probably closer relationships that you already had for so many years, or maybe you try to reconcile some relationships that haven't gone so well in the past. And also there's new relationships that you where you meet new people, and you might be with some of these people for a while, so you put effort into that as well. And so, yeah, it's important to have that community, to have those around you, and it does take a lot of effort, it does take a lot of energy. But for me, I saw the value and the importance of it, so I was willing to put forth effort into building community. And a lot of times it's hard to be able to socialize and meet new people, and time after time to try to meet these people again, to invest into relationships. So I don't know if a lot of people do see the value in that. Maybe some people still don't. But I understood it. I saw the value in it. I see a lot of good from it. Knowing that it's not always about myself, but it helps me to be selfless, helps me to want to do good for others and build each other up, and it's a lot more rewarding in that way, when it's not all about yourself, but there's an extension and outpour of things you could do for others, and vice versa. When people do that to me too, I mean, you feel good, you know that you're valued because other people pour out to you, they invest into you and do a lot of things, and you want to return the favor, or you want to pay it forward. And yeah, so for me, like putting forth that effort, and putting energy into investing into communities and relationships, it's worth it. At the end of the day, it's needed. I know I need it. It's a necessity for me to grow as an individual, for me to also uh, be able to help other people, for me to be selfless, I need that community, and it's worth it. It's worth putting forth that investment. And you don't do it. And the thing is, I don't necessarily do it to get a return, because you come to realize it's not always about you. You're not always being individualistic about it. It becomes more communal and less about yourself and more about the community, more as a whole, which kind of provides like a greater purpose too. So, yeah, I just wanted to share that because like community is so important for me, and I think it's very essential to human beings, and for us to survive, really, for us to thrive as people. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. This is another good one. Community, it's important. So if you don't have one, man, go out and find it. Find a good community. Surround yourself with really good people. So not only you could be good yourself, but you could do good others. So I encourage you guys to find a community, and hopefully it pays dividends. And if you enjoy content like this, please subscribe to this channel, drop a like for this video, hit the notification button to be notified for future uploads. And again, I thank you guys so much. Again, trying to be consistent with these uploads and episodes, put as much content out there. If you guys want me to talk about certain topics, leave it in the comment section below and I will consider talking about it. Till then, I'll see you on the next one.